Hey Mike, do you have your own thoughts about the Patterson-Gimlin film and why you think it's a actual real creature?
Yeah, I do. And my thinking has to do with the fact, first of all, I've met Bob Gimlin. Now, I never had a chance to meet Roger Patterson, but I've read about him. There's been a few books that have touched on his life, and I know a little bit about his background, and enough to know that he was a very charismatic man, and he was a short man, and sometimes short men try to make up for their stature by being bigger in other ways. And Patterson, for example, was a weightlifter, and he built up his body, and so he could take on somebody in a barroom fight that was 3 times as tall as he was, but not quite as strong because of his weightlifting capability. He was a very capable tumbler, an athlete, and he was a rodeo rider. And he was also very entrepreneurial. Now, people who can't really attack the film, because you can only go so far in trying to attack the film, it's impossible to prove it's not real. So what they tend to do, and what they've done most recently, is try to attack the men who made the film. So by argumentum ad hominem, they can prove the film is fake, by proving that the men were disreputable. Well, Roger Patterson, of course, because he was a full-time Bigfoot hunter, he sometimes didn't have a lot of money. I can testify to the fact that full-time Bigfoot hunters sometimes have trouble paying their bills, because I have that problem myself. So Roger would occasionally borrow money from people. So there was a book written a few years ago that absolutely convicted him of being a horrible con man and ne'er-do-well. And actually, it's just that the man was very inventive. He was very entrepreneurial. He didn't like to work for other people. He liked to create his own work. And he decided, he got interested in Bigfoot around 57, then in 59 he really started working at it and started to interview people and started to become a Bigfoot guy, a full-time guy. So by 67, when he shot that film, he'd already been working at it nearly 10 years. Now, I've met Bob Gimlin, and Bob Gimlin is about as nice a man as you could ever meet. And Bob Gimlin has essentially made nothing from the film. So when Patterson shot that film, they started exhibiting it in theaters. And Patterson would be there to take questions from the audience, and people would pay an admission to come into the theater, and they were doing quite well when the film first came out, doing these shows. But you see, Patterson's longest expeditions were funded by his brother-in-law, a man named Diatley. And Diatley refused, after a while, to pay Bob Gimlin. He said, we're just going to cut Gimlin out of this because I don't want to share this money with him. I didn't ask him to go with you, Roger, so it's that kind of a thing. So Gimlin got actually cheated out of his share, got pushed aside, and he just kind of backed off and said, I don't want to fight over this. Patterson was actually the prime mover, and it was his passion that made us go look for Bigfoot. But Gimlin paid for the gas that brought him down to Northern California. They got there in his truck. Gimlin was responsible for covering up the tracks in the sandbar so that people could study them days later. Patterson just rolled over and said, shine it on. And Gimlin got up in the middle of the night and went and covered those tracks with tree bark so that the rain wouldn't wash them away. And so why would a man after 40 years still hold on to a lie when most of the time during the past 40 years all he's gotten for it is grief? People calling him a liar, a cheat, a con man, and so forth. I don't think a person would do that. And he got cheated out of his share of the booty in the hoax, if it was a hoax. Does that make sense?